Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Corbett, and with me, of course, is Mr. Matt Germain. And you can always find him on Twitter. I think I forgot to say this last time, Matt, at Matt, M-A-T _ Germain, Germain _ X.com. He's there. And, of course, he's here today. How you doing, Matt?
I am trying to not turn into Bob Uecker from Major League right now. It's essentially where I sit.
Yeah, well, he sits in a frozen stance up in the 400s in a seat too, but and I feel more like him there, just sitting there petrified right now. The 90-year-old man is walking around, but the statue they have him up there in the 400s. But I do get that. So let's talk about Bob's Major League acting history and how that compares.
Oh man, the amount of drinking that you can do if you're one that lets your emotions get the best of you when things are going bad, I think are some of the things that you could delve into if ever you get too depressed about your baseball team.
Welcome back to Major League Baseball. Sort of. Take over, Monty. I'm in the bag.
I'm not a drinker at all, so fortunately, I'm never going to head there. But I just mean in terms of the general feeling and emotion. Like when you watch your team struggle as much as we have recently with the Rays, it's not like they're doing what the White Sox are doing. It's not like they're doing what the Marlins are doing. But I think we've been a little bit spoiled, I guess, in terms of how the Rays normally win and lose. And they usually play to a certain standard and are well below that standard right now. So I think that's the frustrating part.
Yeah, I had these psychic nightmares, after this past week. I kept hearing the phone ringing in my sleep, and I'd pick it up and it said, "Hello, this is White Sox. Can Eric Neander schedule a game with us right now?" Or, "Hello, this is the Miami Marlins. We'd like to schedule a game with you guys and kind of help out our win-loss record. Could you come down here right away?" It's just like, good gravy. I look at the Marlins; they lost 7 in a row, and what was it? Jazz got so upset the other day with a call at the plate that he barked and barked at the umpire. He goes all the way back to the dugout and still barks. Got a warning twice. And he continued on.
I just feel sorry for him. They didn't want to kick him out.
Yeah. It's so finally they ejected him after 2 warnings. Oh, and even then they couldn't start the game again until Jazz actually left. And I'm feeling a little bit like Jazz right now. I just want to whine and complain and say, "Tag on it. What the heck's going on?" But I know it's not the umpire's fault.
Right. Yeah. It's the way that they're losing. So there's something extremely frustrating about seeing the same product put on the field over and over and over and over again and having the same results and realizing that your team is not making the changes that you want it to make because it's just not working. And they have to change something. If you don't change anything, it could take forever. There's some players that go through 1, 2, 3 month droughts. So it's not an assured thing that just because you're leaving them in their positions that they're going to end up coming out of it. I have a feeling that, there's probably enough people now that are going to be screaming in Kevin Cash's ear that the lineup will start to look different. I think the return of some players will allow for that to happen without him actually saying, "Okay, this is why we're doing it," because we're getting pressured by everyone. I think, when you add guys like Junior Caminero, when you add guys like Josh Lowe and Johnny Aranda, and you have excuses, quote unquote, of putting new guys up in the top of the lineup. But the more worrisome thing is the way that it's happening. Like they're not even competitive at bats a lot of times when you're watching Randy Arozarena or Harold Ramirez. They're both, swinging at that stuff that they never used to. They're expanding the zone. They're not making contact with any sort of oomph. And so I think like Harold Ramirez has one of the lowest exit velocities this year overall. And then you look at the way that defensive roles play in that, you're like, well, how long is he going to stick around? So there's a lot of questions being, and I think the turnover is going to be exciting to watch and a much needed excitement. for the Rays.
Well, it's going to have to happen. I mean, we were talking earlier this season, looking at the impairment, if you will, with pitching, because we have a full rotation of fantastic pitchers who are all on the IL right now.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I wanted to whine about that, all I had to say, well, even if we had all those guys doing a fantastic job right now, it would not matter if
No, you're
if
right.
offense didn't deliver the goods. So
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what it's going to take. Chad Matola, the batting coach, our hitting coach must be pulling all of his hair out right now. I mean, I know he's worked with these guys. I've seen him do fantastic work with a lot of players coming up, and it has to be maddening for him and for them. And sometimes I think I look at the players' eyes. Some of them I feel like there's something lost. I don't see the energy. I don't see the vivacity that I once did last year in some of their eyes. I don't see them running all the way down to first. How many times have you and I both seen a play where either the shortstop bobbles it over the first? You could possibly get that first. Yes, the ability for them to get the ball over to first before you is great, but do you slow down because of it? Jeez, crackers.
Right. You're hitting on a lot of great points. And Yandy Diaz used to be one that smiled a lot. You would see him smile, like whether he was at the plate, whenever he was talking to somebody at first base. Uh, Today, I saw him, or is it yesterday's game, where he was on second base with Willie Adames, and he wanted nothing to do with Willie. Willie was trying to tease him or say, hey, what's up? Well, wanted nothing to do with him. He was grumpy as all could be, and just was torqued about something on the tag, I guess, when he got to second base. And I was just like, that's not, there's something not right in the state of mind of both Randy Arozarena and Yandy Diaz. I don't know where it stems from. I don't know why. They're getting all the opportunities they can to come out of things. There's some things at the plate they're doing okay. Like it's not all atrocious. It's just it has to be maddening for Yandy Diaz to have one of the highest exit velocities on average in the majors, but for all of them to be killing worms. Like it's really maddening. And it's like, what is it that you need to do to get that bat a half inch lower the majority of the times that you're swinging? Like that's all it is. It's a half inch, quarter inch, whatever it might be, to get the right angle on the ball. It has to be really infuriating. So I'm less afraid of Yandy Diaz, but Randy Arozarena, just the spirit that he needs in order to compete isn't there. I thought it might come out when he went to Yankee Stadium. Nothing. There was just nothing. I thought it might come out when they're facing certain pitchers in certain situations. He had two opportunities in the same game with the bases loaded or two runners on. Nothing. Like there's just no excitement. No, not even really solid at bats. And then that's a really frustrating thing. So that's why, in my opinion, like for the last 2 weeks, they should have had the hottest hitters at the top. And what it would have done is, first of all, you're getting more competitive at bats at the top of the lineup, so that then you're driving the pitch counts, which is fine. But when they're getting those opportunities that Randy's had and that Yandy's had to drive runs in, you're actually getting them in. So it lowers the pressure on Yandy and Randy. If they're lower down in the lineup, they're like, we already have runs on the board. I don't have to do all the work right now. I feel like right now, Randy and Yandy are trying to do everything for the Rays because they know how many players they're missing and that they're the ones who are counted on to compensate. And so it's playing mind tricks on them. It's just not getting them the right vibes. I'm curious to see how it turns out once they get the roster set with the main core players in place. Now, Brandon Lau's not returning for any time soon. I don't even know if he'll ever come back, to be quite honest. But Josh Lowe, Johnny DeLuca, John Aranda, when they get back in there, the at-bats will improve in terms of the number of pitches, and Kevin Cash hopefully will have a better balance in the lineup overall. So then maybe they start, thinking of things the right way, or however they need to get themselves right, because the Rays are not going to be right without them. That's one thing we know for sure.
And I know what you're saying about Yandy. And I do see that to see that situation, especially with Adamas today, because Karen and I actually we went to watch the games over the Brewers this past week. Saw the first one, and pregame we got there early enough to get that batting practice. And Willie's out there, and he and Yandy are just standing beside one another and talking for several minutes and laughing, arms around one another, all that kind of thing. Willie, I keep thinking of all that positive influence that he had with the team, years ago when he was with the Rays. It is just the camaraderie with all of them. He was talking with players who weren't even on the team when he was with the Rays, and it was a real friendly sort of conversation going on. And to see the turn, if you will, to, I won't say negativity, I just say abruptness, just not even paying attention to the kind of friendship that they probably once had. And that saddens me. There was also, we look, I see Jakey Bowers out there. It was fun watching him. I'll tell you a little bit more about our visit to, was it Bernie the Brewer, their mascot?
Yep.
So he stands up there. You've seen this, where he has this little chalet up like at the 400 level with a big giant slide. So anytime they get a home run, he slides down it. And all I could think of is your mascot's not out here interacting with people during the game because he's sitting up in the chalet waiting for a home run to come in. I'm kind of jumping around here, but it just thought that was kind of humorous. I thought if we put Raymond in a dog pound maybe at the top of the drop, and every time we got a home run, he would bark and go down a slide. No.
I want to catapult. Just catapult him into the air like one of the stingrays and like have a stinger come out or
Ooh, I like that. Well, we were they're coming back, right? We're gonna be playing home soon here. Is that with the Mets?
Yep.
Oh yeah, maybe they'll take some of these ideas. Man, I don't think they can deploy them that quickly, but it would be interesting because they need a new vibe, brother. They need it, and it's not there yet. I'll tell you one more thing too about the Milwaukee Brewers. And I saw it today as I was watching the game. That catcher, William Contreras. Yeah, I was reading here, he's got the best FWAR among all major league catchers since the start of the 2023 season. But the thing I was noticing today is if I was batting, he is pretty good about trying to distract the batter. He moves around a little left and right, and sometimes he doesn't move. Sometimes it seems like he almost brushes the dirt around the batter or moves his glove left and right across the ground to make some noise to distract the batter. And it's like, ooh, that's a different strategy.
Yep. You're allowed. Like, I don't think there's any rules in there. There must be a line you can't draw. Like, you can't cross. The umpires must be able to say, oh, you can't do this or this is going too far. Like, but I think the interesting part with Contreras is that at the time that the Brewers acquired him, I was screaming for the Rays to acquire Sean Murphy from the A's, and he was part of that whole deal. And man, I wish that they would have gone either one, and we could have put the catching position to bed at that point. I understand Sean Murphy might have not extended with the Rays, so it was a different angle for them. It was too much to pay for just him. But if they would have been able to land Contreras, imagine where they'd be now instead of yeah. But he's excellent. He's been fun to watch, and so is Tyler Black. I was impressed with his debut from the Brewers. Good Canadian boy. So I'm hoping that he'll make the next WBC start with Team Canada. But the fact that he got his first 2 hits as a left-handed hitter against left-handed pitchers is pretty cool, including a double off the first hit. So I think the Brewers are in a good place. They have a really strong outfield overall, a young outfield that's healthy and chugging, except for Christian Yelich, who kind of got sidetracked for a bit. But you can tell they are a passionate group. They have an edge to them now that I don't remember them having before. And I think you know who that comes from, right? I think you're going to tell us.
Oh, brother. Well, yeah. I mean, Mr. Will, you're talking about the energy out there on the field. He's the one pulling them all together. There's no doubt about it. If that's what you're referring to, and
the manager though gives them an edge.
Oh well, geez, yes, okay, right. I got him listed down here. Man, goodness gracious, Pat Murphy. Wow. you always wonder, when a new manager's come in because he didn't have all of last season. Let's see, no, but he came in, and I was wondering, he has had an ugly week as a manager. What with the Yankees, and before we came to town, before Tampa came to Milwaukee, they played the Yankees, and there was a play where a hit goes on, and at that point, Judge had been on first as he runs to second, slides into second, and I think it was Willie had the ball tagged over there at second, and he throws to first, but the ball can't make it because none other than Mr. Judge slaps it down with his hand. It looks like maybe it's part of just how he slides, but it looks also a little contrived. And don't you know, this is something and Mr. Murphy is just shaking his head and upset about all this. Hey, he gets ejected. He's had a couple of times this week where he's had the opportunity to be ejected again. And man, oh man, one thing you can tell about him is he stands up for his team as well he should. But the other day too, when who was it? Was it Bowers up with bat, and he does a swing, comes all the way back around, hits poor catcher Pinto in the back of the helmet, and the umpire immediately stands up, ends the play, and when he does that, it's the play's supposed to be dead. The guy on third, the runner on third comes into home, and the Brewers go insane because now the game is tied at the bottom of the ninth. And yes, we're going to be able to go ahead and win. And no, because the umpire stopped it. And at that point, that crowd, I got to tell you, being in there, I was about ready to just kind of find a way to ease out so nobody would see me with my Tampa Bay gear because they were angry. And, and Murphy to boot. So he got out there and had his words to say, and lo and behold, yes, he got ejected. So he's got a lot of energy. And like I said, I was talking to you earlier about looking back what he's done as far as a manager, getting booted out in the past. While he's been booted twice this year, that ties him with National League managers Bob Melvin and Derek Shelton for 2 ejections this far, and Aaron Boone, American League. No, Mr. Murphy had, interim manager back in 2015 with the Padres, and he had, drum roll please. No, that can't be. He was ejected. I know, but I think it's 5 times. No, yeah, 5 times. So going at the radius now, I think he's going to be ejected 11 times if you take that as a percentage for 2023, and wouldn't that just be insane?
Yeah, and then you got to imagine like the Brewers are probably not going to run away with the Central. So I'm imagining him in August and September being in a lot of divisional games and heated moments. There's a good chance he might reach a dozen. So it is. So there's a lot of different trains of thought with the whole ejection thing, right? I mean, how many times did you see Dusty Baker get thrown out? Bruce Bochy, does he really ever get thrown out? I don't even know. I can't remember. I'm sure he has, and I'm sure it's happened. But they're not really, they're more of a calming presence. And I think most people would say that that's the kind of manager you want. Now, on the other side of it, you have some that were a little bit more fiery, and more involved, but I think most players would tell you that they see it as the manager backing them up. So they always see it in positive light from their end of things. So I think it's fine. Like the whole thing is about getting things right and making sure the people get to have their say. So as long as it's done without the Tommy LaSorda style kicking sand up up somebody's uniforms and untucking the shirt and spitting on each other. Yeah, there's a line I think that's being drawn now, and it's fine. I think it's good. I like to see the fire. Kevin Cash has gotten fiery a little bit here and there as well recently, so I think it's part of the game, and it's fun to watch sometimes. How invested they are and how passionate they are about getting their point across.
Well, and it provides an energy, for the team. Like I said, it shows that they support them. So I'm, oh gosh, but looking at the thing the other day with Siri hitting the home run, and if I can get it Peralta wasn't real happy about that. And Siri had this kind of, what do you want to call it, soft shoot he does after he hits it. He just kind of bows his head down, does a little shoulder shake, and then goes ahead and runs the bases. Nothing dramatic. But it amazes me that people get so upset with some of these people who hit home run. If they have a little celebration up there, what does it matter? But he went ahead and did that. And what was it? A couple innings later, and Peralta beans him right in the hip.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on, dude. But
my mind was in a completely different place than everybody else's. You know where my mind was?
Are you thinking about the Caballero?
No, when that play was happening, I was like, here's a guy that was pulled from a game because of how he was playing, just recently.
Yeah.
Pretty much benched because of it. Had players, I believe, come out and say beforehand, like listening to Jason Adam and some other interviews, call certain things that weren't being done right out. And just because when he gets back into it, he has a good swing and he crushed that ball. Don't get me wrong. It was definitely a pimpable home run. I'm just saying that if I'm in the state of mind where I know I have to prove myself to keep my playing time and I need to get focused and doing that, I'm probably not pimping the home. I'm just happy to be on the field and being productive and not antagonizing anyone in a game that we're losing by a significant amount. It just didn't fit the moment or the timing. To me, it showed a lot of immaturity from Jose Siri, where it was all me, 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 me. And when players ran onto the field, they didn't really seem to be going to rescue Jose Siri from anything. If anything, they were kind of going on and just making sure nobody else was getting involved. It was almost like he was out there on his own. And to me, it was almost a sad scene. It looked like the Rays were running on the field half asleep. Like they were like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? They weren't even really invested or involved in it. And that's what I saw. My mind was all on the Rays' lack of passion.
Yeah.
I'm still there this season. There's passion from the players they've brought in that are new. The players that have been here for a long time, I don't know if it's Tyler Glasnow trade that's thrown them all off and they're not really believing in themselves for this season. But if that's the case, get rid of them because they're not really going to help you this year or ever, really. So if that's really what's happening in the background of things, and I'm not involved, I'm not in the room, I can just tell you what I see on the field. But there's a lack of, in the military, we say gaff factor, right? And I think we know what that means.
Yeah.
But it's not there. And it's just, I think some people have it and they're trying to keep each other accountable. And I think Zach Eflin is more of a silent leader. He's not going to be a raw guy. And I also feel that Josh Lowe's presence has been missed. He's the glue guy. He's the guy that kind of keeps everybody on the positive and even keel. But that Jose Siri thing, that's all I could think was, wow, they're not even going to help him. They're letting him fight the entire Brewers team right now. They're kind of just, I don't know.
Well,
that's what I thought.
Well, if you look at that as kind of a lackadaisical approach, is it just because they don't support Siri? Like, come on, really? Why is that such a big deal? I mean, the first thing I'm thinking while I was watching that, I thought, oh, look, here's Siri going along first base. But, really, oh, yeah, I'm just going to get my equipment. But at the same time, geez, you see what was his name? Ubita? Or I can't think of his name for life of me. The pitcher at the moment, Uribe.
Yeah.
Anyway, Uribe. Thank you. Jeez, I better clean that up. Uribe.
It's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, but Uribe, yeah, I see him. And the first thing my mind runs back to is Jose Caballero and where he's coming to third. And there's another pitcher, Contreras, waiting for the runner. And that's just the same sort of setup, I thought. I said, oh, geez, come on, really? Really? And you knew that Siri wasn't going to let a comment pass or that brush pass without some sort of commentary and, pitches punched, etc. But it was not surprising to see all of the suspensions that came for that. Siri actually was suspended for 3 games. They took him down to 2. Trying to think who else was suspended. The Brewers manager was suspended for a couple of games, and Uribe definitely was suspended. I'm trying to think, maybe there was another Brewer as well. But it's like, my gosh, some of that stuff just has to stop. Maybe that's what it was. Some of the other Rays were saying, "Oh, come on, really, one more time? I got to come out here and do this. Is it really worth this?" And then if Siri was getting hot, well, we just had it pulled off for that alone. I mean, he's getting hit. He may have been off today anyway, but he's suspended for 2 games. He's not going to be able to play against the Mets tomorrow.
Yeah, and I have so many thoughts on the roster and how it's made right now, and I mean, I don't know how you keep everybody focused, but I think you're always going to have distractions here and there, but I'm more talking about the cohesiveness of the team. It's lacking right now. And it's not really, I know it takes time when you're bringing so many new faces in, and the Rays have had extra new faces because of the number of injuries. I get it. It's not going to gel and everybody's going to be a little bit awkward at the same time. So it's not because they're not nice people and they're not supporting each other. They're not as invested in each other as they otherwise would had they gone through things together, right?
Right.
But I think the interesting part is to say, okay, right now we've gone through April. Is there any information you can take from April to say who you want to keep going forward and who you don't want to keep going forward? Because now is the time to start making changes. And you have, a Junior Caminero who's hitting balls harder than any Rays player is right now. He just hit one today at 114.5 miles per hour, a double, and which was just crushed. So you're not going to hold him back much longer. So you need to start looking at, okay, who are we keeping? Who is essential? And sadly, you kind of have to say, well, yeah, this guy's going to be healthy. This guy's going to be healthy, knowing that everything could change in a heartbeat. Right. So that's the sad part of where they are. So they have Shane Baz going on a rehab assignment on Saturday or Sunday. So he's going to be coming up. To me, I'm hoping that he ends up in the pen, an elite pen option that they really need. Like, I don't want to see Erasmo Ramirez go on the mound anymore for the Rays. I'm not trying to be mean. To me, he's a quadruple A player. He's not an MLB player. He's not a triple A player. He's probably a little bit too good, veteran wise for triple A. So he's somewhere in between, and it's just not working out toward a point where, you're in a 3-0 game today. Could the Rays had more momentum if they still were at 3-0 by the time they were in the eighth? Maybe, but they put Erasmo in there, and the the score gets run up, and suddenly the Rays are completely out of it. So I want to call them ghost injuries, but putting Davinsky and Pache on IL with issues that you can't really say, whether or not they actually exist. To me, it was more about giving them a chance to reset and change a few things and work on things, which is fine. Phil Maton may end up in the same, ghost IL category pretty soon if he keeps doing what he's doing, but he keeps being used in high leverage. So again, it's like, so if you don't want to use Phil Maton and high leverage, then you need to have other options in there. And that's where Shane Baz and other guys come in. Yeah. I would love to see Shane Baz as a high leverage reliever for the Rays. I would love to see Brendan McKay as a high leverage reliever for the Rays. The Rays, if you look back at the last 3 or 4 years, do an insanely terrible job at developing their own relievers. What I mean by that is their own prospects, their own guys. There's not a single guy in the pen right now that's a Ray, that's been brought up as a Ray. None. So what are you doing? Like, and on top of that, you have guys that you tried to do as a starting pitcher all the way through who failed, who might have been able to be a good reliever if you allowed them the chance to prove that and to see if they can add a few miles per hour by being relievers. But the Rays are very, very, very stubborn in not changing the roles and in a time that makes sense for them to prove they can do it and to be elite at it. Because to me, a starting pitcher who goes into reliever, they can suddenly have more tools in their toolbox to actually use on top of getting the extra miles per hour that they would get, from being in a shorter stint. So it doesn't make any sense to me that the Rays can't develop their own high leverage or relievers in general, but they can identify them all across the league. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Either you're drafting the wrong guys, you're developing the wrong guys, you're developing them the wrong way, or you're not giving them the chance that they deserve. So when I look at the Rays right now, I know there's a lot of changes coming. What I'm saying is look internally, you have pieces right now that you can use in those roles in that way. Duncan David could be an excellent reliever. He might never make it as a starting pitcher. Right now, you've got 20 guys doing starting pitching in the system. I guarantee you, not all of them are going to be starting pitchers in the bigs. So you can pluck a few of those out and make them relievers, elite relievers, like Mason Miller right now with the A's. Where did he come from? Right? He's dominating. And why? Well, he got the chance. And he used to be a starter, but now he's a reliever. So there's value to be had there. And I don't want to hear any excuses about Erasmo Ramirez being of value to the Rays. When I saw that move, it told me so much about the Rays and where they are right now. They do not believe in their team for some reason. And they have the pieces to do better. And I wish that they would. That's my rant, I guess.
No, well, and it's a valid one. But I would like to hear just a little more from you when you're saying if you brought Shane Boss back, what would you see difference bringing him back as reliever? What would he be doing differently as a pitcher on that mound as a reliever?
Well, let's say he's starting. First of all, he has to get lengthened all the way out. So through that process, he has to remain healthy, which has been a real challenge for him to stretch himself out, to have the what do you call it, stamina to actually get through 5 innings minimum, right? Mostly you're trying to stretch him out to 6. So you're pushing your body all the way up to that point and your arm. Whereas if he was going to relief, you can target 3 innings and keep him there, maybe even 2, and say, we're just going to train you at 2. And he has the frame really of a reliever. He's not really the frame of a starter when you look at it. He's never pitched 100 innings in a year in his entire time since 2018. I think his max might even be under 90 innings in a year. So he never had the stamina to be a starter all the way through his minors career. So why are we pushing him to be a starter? Why are we forcing him into that category? Do it a little bit like the Dodgers with Julio Urias. He came up as a reliever. They gave him the MLB innings because the talent was there. He was able to get MLB guys out. They just gave him the innings in relief. And eventually, when he had enough innings that they could build on it, they put him in as a starter. And that's fine. Because you have the mentality at that point of going, okay, I know I can get major league guys out. And I've done it extremely well in relief. And now you're just stretching that out a little bit longer each time. 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. That's great. If Shane Boss can prove to me this year he can pitch, let's say, 70 innings as a reliever, next year you want to try him as a starter? Absolutely. I will be the first one to support him and say, yeah, give him 120 and see how it goes. But he's still going to be capped at 120, 125. So I think the Rays need to be realistic. Same thing with Brendan McKay. Brendan McKay right now can get major league hitters out right today. If they needed a lefty, he would be a better option than Chris Nowitzki. He'd be a better option than Colin Poche. He'd be a better option than a lot of the guys that they're looking at for the pen roles. But he's in Double-A, and I get it because he has to get his feet under him. It's his first year back to really getting guys out. I'm just saying that eventually this year, they need to seriously look at him as a pen option, not a starter. They don't have room in the starters. They have Jeffrey Springs coming back. They have Tosh Bradley coming back. There's no room. And they also have Tyler Alexander, which, he's looked good and bad, on occasion, but he would be the long, relief guy anyway in your pen. So
how's Drew doing anyway?
And Drew is another one that he's more of a September arrival, I think. And he's another elite pen option at that point, I think. I don't think he'll be, but if they need him as a starter, if somebody goes down, Zach Eflin gets hurt, somebody, something like that, then I'm guessing they could use him as a starter at that point. I just think for his health and his career, when he's gone through all the things that he's gone through now, it's time to kind of say, yeah, do I want to be Nate Eovaldi and walking that fine line and pushing it to the last minute and seeing how it goes? Yeah, so I think he has to decide what he wants to do with his body.
Gotcha. I don't want to see any of these young men come back too hard, too fast, and be injured for the rest of their career or lack thereof because of that. I mean, you and I have talked about that in the past, and like I said, we'll do a whole show sometime just on that because it's a sad part of the beast. But I do want to reflect back on a piece you were talking earlier about how some of the players may not be as engaged this year simply because they don't have the familiarity with those pitchers, a camaraderie, if you will. But man, oh man, Pepio did pretty good the other night. Here's a new pitcher for the team, and he should have invigorated a bunch of the guys the way as well he was pitching the other day. He was dominant, man.
Yeah, he's putting up stats that are very, very, very similar to Tyler Glasnow overall. And I posted something on it on Twitter just because I think it's important for us to, whenever these trades happen, and it's somebody that fans really care about. I think it's important to kind of reflect back on it over time and to show it periodically. This is what they got back. This is the comparison. This is, how it looks and why they did it. So far, Tyler Glasnow has thrown one more game than Ryan Pepio. So it's hard to look exactly at the number of innings pitched. But let's say Ryan Pepio did another 6-inning outing the next time he's out, they'd be 2 innings apart in terms of how many innings they've thrown. So Tyler Glasnow hasn't pitched an extensive number of innings more for those 7 starts. So let's just start there. They're similar length, right? Which for the Rays is great. It saves the pen just as much as Tyler Glasnow would have. The second part is that their ERAs, Tyler Glasnow's at 2.72, Ryan Pepio's at 3.12. So there isn't much, and that's considering that Ryan Pepio actually had a really bad start in there, which probably shows the difference. But you could almost say that right now they're in the same place in terms of what they can provide ERA and FIP wise. Now the WHIP is the really intriguing one. So Tyler Glasnow has a higher WHIP at 0.93 than Ryan Pepio, who's at 0.87. That is extremely telling. And I've said it from the beginning of the year when we were talking about the preseason predictions. I think Taj Bradley and Ryan Pepio, along with Jeffrey Springs, are going to be the 3 top starters for the Rays by the end of the year. I think that those will be your top 3. Zach Eflin will be 4th, and Aaron Savali will be 5th, or somebody else. I think that's where it's headed because of the talent and the stuff. I watched Taj Bradley start in AAA this week. Extremely exciting stuff. It just, you watch it and you can see the rise at the end and why the hitters can't catch up to it. And it's the same thing with Ryan Pepio. When we talked about it, it's like Zach Eflin, but with higher velocity. And so the guys are really not squaring anything up against them. It's extremely hard to do. So if they're hitting their spots and are doing well that way, I think Ryan Pepio is going to make it. You're right. He's going to make a lot of people excited. And I think for the players, once they see him and Taj Bradley back to back, they might get it. They might be like, whoa, we're in a different spot now. And I don't know if you've heard, but Grayson Rodriguez is put on IL by the Orioles with shoulder inflammation. The other Rodriguez in Toronto has been put on IL with a whole bunch of issues himself. So while the other teams are getting less and less pitching, the Rays are adding more starting pitching. Eventually, that could give them a huge asset to trade at a key time, and they could end up, getting another piece that they really need. I still believe in this team. I'm not like, I think a lot of people are jumping off the bus right now because of how bad it's been. I think there's enough time left that as long as they actually make the right moves, and the first one is getting Junior Caminero. He just hit a 2-run home run, 110 miles per hour off the bat.
Wow.
So as we're talking, he's proving the point. He needs to be called up. We saw what Tyler Black did for the Brewers this week. The Rays can have that and more. And if you put him in the top 3 in the lineup, slide Randy Arozarena down to 4th or 5th, I don't care.
Please.
But Isak Paredes and Junior Caminero back to back to me would be driving pitchers nuts. So then do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Do you remember in Saturday Night Live, Chris Farley and Adam Sandler had a skit where he kept asking people that if he could stay in their house, and Chris Farley will keep ramping things up more and more and more in terms of his reaction. So Adam Sandler would be like, "Let me stay in your house. I won't dirty anything. I'll clean up after myself." Blah, blah. Then Chris Farley would be like, "Let the boy stay in your house." And that's how I feel. I feel like Chris Farley, like trying to convince the Rays to really let it happen. Like, get Junior Caminero up, change the energy of the team, bring a spark to the fans and the team. I would love nothing more than for the City Connect jerseys to put on the first day that Junior Caminero plays. That would just be outstanding. You're bringing in a new jersey, one that you hit out of the park. Those things are awesome. I already ordered mine. Should be arriving by the end of the week. I think that is a marketing dream, what the Rays have done with that.
I'd say I lived in fear of what they were going to deliver for City Connect because there's been some of them from some of the teams out there. It's like, oh my gosh, why even bother? But I saw these. I was like, wow. I haven't ordered mine yet, but like I was talking to Karen. I said, honey, we get home, I'm actually ordering some of the gear. It's stupendous. I love the flames off of the Tampa Bay. I love the manta ray, stingray with the Skyway Bridge built into it, or the other one on a skateboard. There's all and the color is just vibrant. I mean, I think it was the best thing that happened at Rays this week was the uniforms, the new uniforms.
You're right. Yeah, I think when I ordered mine, it said there was only 2 left, and I go on a Canadian site, obviously, so it's a different number of things for available. I was impressed by how much, and they're not cheap by any means, but they make for good Father's Day gifts. They make for good birthday gifts, and I think they're going to fly off the shelves, not just this year, but a whole bunch of years. I'd be curious to see if they can actually make them glow in the dark. Like, kids would love it. Fans would, they really would. There's got to be a way to make that happen where they sell a version that glow in the dark. And, imagine every time that they win, they turn the lights off at the Trop and the players are just glowing off the field.
Oh, I love that, man. Now we've been look for some marketing promotions. I like that better than throwing Raymond across the field. Oh,
I like the catapult, man. The catapult, put him in a City Connect jersey and just let it fly.
Put him in the trebuchet. Well, woof, there he goes. Oh, brother. No, but yeah, I do love those uniforms, man. And it was good, this road trip that Karen and I took to see the White Sox and see the Brewers play. Got to see obviously Adames, and got to see that Jakey Byers out there as well. And
what was your favorite part of the stadium in terms of the Brewers, especially?
Well, I don't know. I was more actually impressed with the scoreboard at the White Sox than about anything else, because to me, and I almost had to watch out because be distracted. It had so much information up there, more than I've seen on any other scoreboard. Coming back to Milwaukee, though, overall, I mean, it just had a good, clean vibe in there. I liked how much the fans were involved with it, the stadium itself, and the Bob Uecker seat up there, way up in the high 400s, and everybody get their picture taken with him. The Brewers' little slide, the home run slide up there. Those are all just kind of fun things about it. And of course, I had to get myself a Johnsonville sausage, which I think I'm still paying for. And it's, yeah.
Oh man, that's fun.
It was good.
The beer's good from what I hear too in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I didn't take advantage of that as a little chicken because I wanted to set aside time for that where I could actually really indulge, and I did not. But I usually want to, if I go to a place like that, go and enjoy some of the breweries nearby. But that didn't happen this time out.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
I do have to tell you, years ago when I was in Green Bay, and I was there for a week when I was working. I made sure I made sure I stopped by several of the breweries there, and I've got the pint glasses to prove it.
Yeah, I that's on my bucket list to go watch a game at Lambeau. I'd love to kind of be part of that atmosphere, and I would hope it was the coldest day of the year, and I had to wear all these heating things, and I wouldn't care. It's a pretty cool spot to watch a game.
It was amazing. I was there, unfortunately, in a week when they weren't playing. It was kind of interesting. I'll be kind of quick about this. I arrived on a Sunday. Sunday after I guess the game, everybody had just sipped out of town, and the fee I had to pay to stay there that first night was just unimaginable. And the rest of the week was like 120 bucks. So that town, it's a small town in and of itself, but it really comes alive during the Packers games. But no, I would have to say I really did enjoy Millersfield, and I got to say the crowd, I enjoyed them all in all. It got a little testy there a couple of times with some of the things going on the field, and seeing things too, like that young player, was his name Jackson Chory? I cannot say it properly.
Chorio?
Chorio, thank you, Jackson Chorio. Watching what he's able to do. What guess he's just barely 20 years old. I love this. What he's got an 8-year, $82 million contract.
Yep.
But to
Rays should
see
take notes and offer something similar to Junior Caminero because he's going to be costly as well.
as if we're paying Randy $8 million a year. I mean, and we're going to see what Jackson does for them for $8 million a year. So I don't know, but Junior can certainly perform well, and I'm looking forward to seeing him and a lot of the other people come on board. I heard one stat today, and I didn't compare it with anything else, but they were saying that the Brewers had the second youngest team in the league. And
Right.
I don't know who would the other one be, if it was the Orioles or somebody else, but I thought that's an exciting stat in and of itself. But you do have people like Adames, who's a veteran these days, to help be the glue guy, as you were talking about earlier, to bring that team and to keep that team excited.
Yeah, and focused. And I think, you can say some players are young, but they actually act like they're above their years. Like Contreras would be an example, somebody that's actually more of a leader, for his age than you would believe. He's acting like he's Yadier Molina out there. Like he's just to that level of sheriffing everything around and making sure everybody's focused. The number of times that he threw behind base runners and kept them in line, and it's just impressive to watch. There's a lot that the Rays can learn from watching him play for sure. And I've always said that if you want to grab onto catchers, aim to trade with the Brewers. They know catching better than any team in the league by far. And then it's kind of funny because then you could say the Cards develop, outfielders. So if you want an outfielder, you go to the Cards. If you want a catcher, you go to the Brewers. It's kind of weird. You get your shopping list, you go to the grocery store, you get your baseball players.
Yeah.
Teams got to eat.
Teams got to eat. Well, and eating they shall. Let's see what happens when our dear friends return to the citrus state in Florida. But I'm hoping the Trop, they're lighting it up, and I'm hoping there's going to be win after win because goodness, we need it. And I hope there's a vibe that comes to that team that they sense from all the fans that's going to bring an energy and a positive action to the field that just seems to be lacking right now.
Yep, I know it's one of those things where they need a change. Maybe the City Connect will be the thing that does it, and it gives them a different vibe and more excitement, and a few returnees. Hoping for a healthy Josh Lowe above all else, and hopefully they get on the right track.
All right. Well, let me ask you now, since baseball biz on deck with the Mets, any projections, any things we should be looking for with the Mets?
With the Mets, it's kind of a mixed bag. They have a lot of injuries, sort of like what the Rays are going through. But they have, they've gotten steady starting pitching overall. I think the return of Diaz has kind of solidified the pen. They have, the core guys that we all know, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and they recently got JD Martinez, finished off. He didn't really have a real spring training, so they got him a little bit later in the season. So he's getting acclimated to things, and because of that, they had sent Mark Vientos, who I think is from Tampa Bay, back down to the minors. And I think Starling Marte came back as well, which is another reason he's down there. But they have a really solid team overall. I think they're going to be tough to play. Harrison Bader's there. They also, interestingly, they signed Mike Brasso to a minor league contract. So a little bit of a Rays tie there. And they also have Joey Wendell and Omar Narvaez, who are both ex-Rays on the team. So yeah, it's not going to be easy by any means. I think the Rays definitely have the tools, if they want to make the right changes to kind of win a few. And I think what might help them more than anything is the fact that they're going to face some lefties. So the Mets, have Jose Quintana and Sean Manaea going on the mound. The Rays are kind of built for that, to attack left-handers right now. So I could see the Rays winning 2 out of 3, I will say.
Well, let's all be hopeful with that. I really look forward to seeing it. Didn't expect to be swept by the White Sox, who were really bottom feeders when we got there. And I'd hope to see better with the Brewers. I think when we get back here to the Sunshine State, like you're saying, though, with those new uniforms, they pepped me up, at least looking at them. They'll get a couple of my dollars in the mail, too, for some of that gear. I am really, really looking forward to seeing homeboy Alonso there, but I hope we can kind of keep his bet somewhat silent. And it should be a lot of fun, my friend.
Yep, I'm hoping. And like you said, the new vibes. Maybe Pete Alonso will like the City Connect jersey so much that he'll sign here as a free agent. You never know. It could happen.
Ooh, boy, I'd love that one. Let me tell you what. All right, you heard it here first, folks. Matt's predicting that Pete Alonso will sign with the Tampa Bay Rays. All right.
Don't put words in my mouth, buddy.
Oh man, that's all this. That's what this is all about. Is conjecture and me making statements that are absolutely not true. So we'll go with that. But the hope is, wouldn't it be fun? Yeah. We'll see how things come, boys and girls. And I want to thank all y'all for being here today at Baseball Biz on Deck. And you got any other things we should chat about, Matt, before we close the door on this week?
No, I think like every year I kind of go through this process, the kind of tempo of promotions. And I think we're probably within a week to 10 days of some minor league promotions starting based on early performances. So keep an eye out for those, because the Rays have a few that will be rising that are kind of interesting to see, including Carson Williams, Chandler Simpson, Braden Taylor. Some guys have kind of opened eyes and deserve some promotions. So you'll start seeing those trickling in at the beginning of May, mid-May.
All right, everybody, I'm going to remind you all, too, to find out what Matt's talking about and thinking about, because he covers a lot when he looks at the minor leagues, what's upcoming, as well as the Rays every day. You can find him, of course, on Twitter, x.com at Matt, M-A-T _ Germain, Germain _ And you can find me, Mark, at The Baseball Biz on Twitter as well. So I want to thank you all for joining us here today, and we look forward to talking with you all again real soon. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Not a problem. Glad to be here.
Just remember, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, Pandora, Amazon Music, and of course here, and also on baseballbizondeck.com. Please go ahead and love us, like I said, and leave your reviews. Also want to leave special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music rocking forward.
Stop this cruel